Looks like the number 11 jersey has found a new owner in Philly. Find out who. Plus, one former Eagles legend will see his son following in his footsteps playing college football. And which veteran players do I believe need to step it up come training camp if they want a spot on the roster? Without wasting any more time, let's dive right into it. What's up, y'all, and welcome to Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Olde City Sports Network, the best network for all your Philadelphia sports needs. This is your host, Michael Roscoe. Even though football in Philly won't return for several more weeks, football has taken the city by storm, as the World Cup has been in full swing and international fans supporting their country's team in the Cup are also getting the Philly experience. International fans have been soaking in the rich history of Philadelphia, the unique sights and sounds, such as Reading Terminal Market, and of course, the Rocky statue, as well as the cuisine, specifically the all-popular Philly cheesesteak. From watching their interactions on social media, it seems like the fans are having an absolutely amazing time. Unfortunately, though, for the Ecuadorian team and fans, it hasn't been all positive, as one fan, unbeknownst to the Rocky curse, put an Ecuadorian jersey on the Rocky statue, and shortly afterward, that team would fall to Cote d'Ivoire by a score of 1-0. Hopefully, the other nations' fans don't make the same mistake for future games. Now let's dive into this week's topics. Starting things off, we have a potential leak on a new number 11 jersey owner. I saw this information on X via Anthony DiBona of the Philly Special Show, where he stated that while the Eagles website doesn't currently say it, if you go to NFLshop.com, click on a custom Eagles jersey, and then hit the pick a player button, you will see that none other than linebacker Jihad Campbell's name pops up as number 11. Thanks to them for the early leak, by the way. I went and actually checked for myself, and it does indeed have his name by number 11. When Campbell first joined the Eagles, obviously he picked number 30 because A.J. Brown had it, and at one point in Campbell's college career, he wore the number 30 jersey. But now with A.J. Brown out the door, it looks like Campbell is switching to the other number he had in college, which of course was number 11. So, 11 has an owner yet again, meaning that the number 30 jersey is up for grabs, and hopefully Campbell stays his typical humble personality with this 11 jersey and it doesn't turn into, I'll say, something else. All right, now we got some roster updates, starting off with the Eagles placing edge rusher Joe Tryon-Shoyinka on the reserve retired list as he officially retired from the NFL at the age of 27. JTS was drafted in 2021 in the first round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he would spend the majority of his 6-season career. Overall, he racked up 160 total tackles, 15 sacks, 8 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 interception. He leaves a loaded edge rusher room with Nolan Smith Jr., Jalix Hunt, AJ Epinesa, Arnold Ebiketie, Keyshawn James Newby, Jose Ramirez, and Joshua Wayru. There's been rumors floating around about a trade for Max Crosby, but I doubt that's going to happen. We also saw some signings as the Birds added wide receiver Eric Ezukanma from the UFL's DC Defenders to their roster. Ezukanma logged 15 receptions for 227 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as 9 rushes for 76 yards. In the return game, he averaged almost 26 yards per return. Additionally, the Eagles signed another UFL standout in cornerback Shaun Wade. Wade played for the Dallas Renegades during the 2025-2026 season, starting in 8 games and logging 24 tackles and 3 interceptions. All right, next topic. We got like father, like son. So, a former Eagles legend will see his son make the next step in his football career. And that legend is none other than former Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb. His son, Donovan McNabb Jr., committed to play at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he will play wide receiver for the Rebels starting in the fall of 2027. McNabb Jr. ranks within the top 110 best high school wide receivers in the nation, and in his most recent season, he scored 5 touchdowns while making 28 catches for just under 300 yards. McNabb Jr. picked UNLV over several schools that provided offers, including his dad's alma mater of Syracuse University. Now, I'm happy for the McNabb family. I am. But seeing this, it makes me feel old as fuck. Like, I grew up watching Donovan McNabb Sr. playing football, getting to 4 NFC championship games in a row, just having a stellar career in Philly before getting traded to Washington. And now I'm seeing his son go to play college football. It's just insane how quickly time passes. All right, our final topic for this week's short episode are players on the chopping block. So, now that OTAs and mandatory minicamp are over, the Birds are on a mini vacation until around mid-July or so, where training camp starts, followed by the preseason, and then eventually the roster cutdown date. There are some players whose stock has risen, while some have fallen. Some of those fallen stock players have been on the team before, but risk not being on the team this season. And I have a few players in mind who, again, have been on the roster at least for a full season already that I think need to have a tremendous camp or risk not earning a roster spot this upcoming season. All right, the first player I have on my list is defensive tackle Ty Robinson. Now, this guy was hyped up a lot when he got drafted. You had people calling him the vanilla gorilla. His college highlights looked well. He played fullback every now and then with the Nebraska Huskers, but yet he hasn't lived nearly up to that hype in the NFL. The Birds are deep at defensive tackle when you include Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo, Byron Young, Taquan Graham, Gabe Hall, Guar Bernard, and now Zion Wilson. Robinson's been the subject of criticism after not living up to these expectations. Plus, we've seen Byron Young take first team reps in camp this offseason, and he had a pretty decent season last year. The only thing that I could see being Robinson's saving grace is that technically Guar Bernard has an international pathway player exemption designation, which is basically a bunch of fancy words for saying that he can be on the team without counting towards the 90-man roster or the 53-man roster come regular season. He's nowhere near a roster lock, and he's going to have to step it up in training camp if he wants a chance of securing a spot in general. Next player I have on my list is tight end Grant Calcaterra. With Dallas Goedert staying for at least one more season and the addition of second-round pick Eli Stowers, I think Calcaterra is at risk of missing out on a roster spot. Johnny Munt was brought in from the Jaguars specifically for his blocking abilities, and he's been having a good camp, making some solid catches. And then with Goddard and Stowers, they're guaranteed roster spots. I don't think the Birds keep 4 tight ends on the roster unless they keep Cameron Latu as a fullback, which they did last season, and specifically because of his blocking abilities as well. One of the biggest criticisms that I've seen with Calcaterra is his lack of blocking skills. And unless that changes, tenfold in camp, I really think he has a major chance of not making the final roster. Next player on my list is cornerback Jacorian Bennett. Now, I've heard absolutely fucking nothing about this dude this offseason so far. At least I haven't seen anything. The Birds signed Reek Woolen, and you got Quinyon Mitchell on the outside with Cooper DeJean in the nickel. So there are your 3 starting corners right there alone. Behind them, outside of Jacorian Bennett, you have Jonathan Jones, who they just signed earlier in the offseason, Keely Ringo, who somehow I believe is going to retain a roster spot, and Mac McWilliams, an inexpensive option on a second year of his rookie deal, all of whom I believe are more viable options than Bennett is. Plus, even with Michael Carter transitioning to safety, he has experience at corner that I believe is more valuable than what Bennett brings. And for those reasons, I think he needs to have a hell of a training camp if he's got a snowball's chance in hell of making the active roster. All right, and the last player on my list is wide receiver Britton Covey. Now, Covey has been on and off the roster, but he's been on the active roster for at least a full season with the Birds, so this is why I'm placing him here. First of all, the wide receiver room is fucking massive this year, y'all. So the wide receiver market in Philly is saturated enough, creating hell of a competition. But then when you look at Covey's other major skill set, kick and punt returning, I don't think he's safe in this area as well, because you got Cooper DeJean, Mekhi Lemon, Tank Bigsby, Will Shipley, and Damian Pierce as potential return options. That's, again, some heavy competition. Plus, history hasn't been on his side, as he's been on the active roster, then demoted to the practice squad, then off the roster completely. I think his best chance of landing a roster spot is by having an outstanding camp, specifically with special teams in the punt and kick returning units. All right, y'all, that is it for this week's short episode. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok by searching at Second and 15. That's 2NDAND15, or by the full name Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast. You can also find the audio for each and every single episode releasing Thursday mornings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Player FM, or wherever you get your podcasts, with the video uploading to YouTube later that same day. This episode, Second and 15, and Olde City Sports Network are brought to you by Iron and Steel Threads. Head on over to ironsteelthreads.com and use our promo code OLDCITY10 for 10% off the entire website, and a portion of the proceeds go to youth hockey organizations. Once again, that is OLDCITY10 for 10% off at ironsteelthreads.com. Once again, thanks y'all for joining in. This is Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Olde City Sports Network. We will see you all next week. Don't forget to stay fly like an eagle, and as always, go Birds!